Hi, I'm Erin McGuire, owner of Pure Light Wellness, and today I wanted to give you another video. Some of you have been asking about more videos on the subconscious mind, and so I would love to give you another video on that topic. And it's really one of my favorite things to talk about. It's really where I spend a lot of my time and energy working with other people, clearing things out of their subconscious. So I'm going to give you just some basic background on the subconscious and how I see it. So the subconscious is really 90% of our mind. The conscious mind is only 10%. I always like to say if you're lucky. Many of us are really living out of a very small portion of our mind, and a lot of us aren't really utilizing the subconscious to its fullest potential, because that's where all of the magic really lies. That's where we can create whatever it is we want. It's what I always talk about. But hopefully it'll make a little more sense for you today. So the subconscious is the only thing that's really open for the first 7 years of life. So anything and everything that happens to us during those first 7 years goes right into our subconscious. And it's why, as an adult, if somebody were yelling at me or got angry at me about something, and somebody else might be like, "Why are you so upset about that?" I'm like, I don't really have any idea. And then when I think about it, oh, that was a trigger from something that happened to me in childhood. It's why we get triggered, because all that stuff, all those memories, all of that, those things that happen to us are right there in the subconscious, and they're still living and breathing, and yeah, until we bring awareness to them, they're still active. So, and it's not to say that after those 7 years of life that nothing else goes in there. Lots of other things can go into the subconscious mind too. I like to see the subconscious mind in two different ways as an idea. I like to see it, one, as a garden hose. And so the garden hose, if it's running smoothly, if there's no kinks in it, right, the water can flow very easily through the garden hose. And that water represents the source of who we are, our higher self, if you will, our spirit, whatever kind of word that works for you in that place. And that's really where it's like, it doesn't mean negative things don't happen to us. It just means that whatever's going on in life, it really doesn't get to us. We're very connected to the source of who we are. We're in the flow, no pun intended. We're in the flow. Life is fairly easy for the most part. We don't let ourselves get too caught up in anything that looks negative or bad. It just kind of is a flow. It's an ebb and a flow, and that's how life goes. And it's easy for the most part. So if there's a kink in there, and that kink can be caused from some sort of trauma that maybe happened to you in life, from getting yelled at as a child, or your parents divorcing, you divorcing as an adult, a bad relationship, whatever the case may be, some sort of negative experience can create kinks in the garden hose. And those kinks now start to make the water not as easy to flow through that garden hose, obviously. It's kind of trickling through. The water never went anywhere. It's still there. Your higher self, never goes anywhere. But it can be kinked and cut off and blocked from the source of you. We can be cut off from ourselves. We can get in our own way sometimes. And the tricky thing about the subconscious is that a lot of times we don't even know what's in there or where we're blocked. So it's this fine-tuning of ourselves to figure out, where am I off, where am I blocked? And that's really what I do for my clients, is I go in and I find out where those kinks are, and then I start to unkink them through the process of the work that I do. So the other way I like to see the subconscious is like a house. It's a really messy house. We're talking like your Aunt Olga's house. She's kept every newspaper from 1930 to the present. There's furniture stacked on top of furniture. There's dust everywhere. It's a freaking mess. And really, my job when I work with clients is to go in and clean up that house. And you can do that too through tapping. Remember, we talked about that in an earlier video. You can go back and look at that in some of my earlier videos. Through tapping, through really staying focused, mentally focused on what it is that you're desiring, and to just really be the, for lack of a better word, the gardener of your vibrational frequency, to really be willing to go into those places where when you do get triggered, instead of just the normal response. I was just having a talk with a client the other night about this. Something had happened and he had gotten triggered. And the normal response is to just get angry and, or, you know, get mad at that person for triggering you, to be upset and to kind of stew in it for a while. That's the normal response. That's what most of us do when something triggers us. Very few of us are willing to go in and ask, well, why am I triggered by that situation? What about that bothered me? Where is this coming from? Because being triggered is a sign. That's like a gem under, you know, a pound of mud. There's a gem under there. If you can start to dig and discover what that gem is holding for you. You know, rather than just letting it go and being mad and whatever, start to kind of go in and ask yourself those questions that I just said. Why am I triggered? Where is this coming from? Know that being triggered it is not a normal response to a situation. If you're being triggered, there's a reason for that. So if somebody says something to you and it upsets you, or you know, your boss does something that upsets you, or whatever. If you're getting upset by something, there's information there for you. Probably something from your past, your childhood, where somebody did something similar. And through introspection and going into it, you can uncover more information about yourself and learn where you're triggered, and then learn how to counterbalance that by staying focused on what you desire, and to tell yourself that stuff is just an illusion, because we create big stories around some of these things. You know, for instance, if my sister triggered me, I don't have a sister, but if my sister triggered me and said something that was triggering to me, I can then create a whole story around how she's trying to make me feel guilty, or she's, you know, doing XYZ to me and she doesn't really care about me. I mean, I can create a whole story around that. And that's all an illusion, and it's all something that you're making up based on one little trigger that she activated in you. So we got to thank that person and be like, wow, thank you. I didn't realize that I was still having to deal with that, or still thinking about that, or that was still inside my subconscious. So thank that person and do your inner work to find out why. Okay, so what else about the subconscious mind? It does not know the difference between a real or an imagined event. So going back to what I just talked about with that, creating that story about your sister, that's not even a real story, but the subconscious mind doesn't know that, so it's going to start believing that to be true. And we have all done this. I know you can relate to this, where you start something and you're like, yeah, she's trying to make me feel guilty, and then this happened, and then she did this, and she also doesn't care about my future. I don't know. You know, we create this whole story, and we start to believe that that's true, that that's real for us. And it causes resentment towards that person. It causes, you know, anger, frustration, and that affects us. That's creating dis-ease in my body. Not to mention all the mental energy it's taking up just to think about all these things, right? So the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a real or an imagined event. Therefore, let's take all that mental energy that you've been putting towards all these things that maybe have been frustrating you and bothering you, and start to think about what it is that you desire. And then to put your mental energy towards that thing that you're desiring. So whether it's losing weight, or having more finances, having your credit, you know, taken care of, paying off your debt, that sort of thing, or getting a relationship, whatever that thing is that you're desiring, or maybe it's just more peace of mind. You just start to close your eyes and mentally envision yourself in that state of mind, in that state that you are desiring, to the point that you can feel it in your body. And sometimes that takes a little bit of time, but you're projecting yourself into the future, feeling what that feels like, and seeing that to be true. And this isn't something that you just do once. You have to do this often, and it starts to work for you. And I think I've mentioned this in other videos before, but it never hurts to say it again. The power of really focusing on what it is you desire. Taking your mind off of your problems, off of all the people that are doing you wrong, off of your financial situation, off of your weight. Taking your attention off of the problem and putting it on the solution, on the desire. Turning your back on your problems and focusing on what it is you want. Because where you focus your attention is where the subconscious mind is going, and it's going to keep creating more and more and more of whatever it is you focus on. So we might as well use it as a tool to focus on what it is we want. The subconscious mind does not know the difference between a real or an imagined event. So you can imagine yourself in the future being peaceful, abundant, perfect weight, whatever else it is that you want. And the subconscious, and if you do that continuously, once a day, every day, you've got to do the work. You've got to be willing to project. Because think about it. You're doing a lot of work spending time thinking about what you don't want. You're spending a lot of time doing that. So you've got to vigilantly start thinking about what it is you want. Keep turning your back on your problems. I know I'm repeating myself. There is a point to that, because the subconscious mind can't always hear all of these things either. If we've got a really messy house, we can't hear these messages sometimes because there's too much clutter and junk and programs from the past that are stopping us from hearing it. So that is a little bit more on the subconscious. I want you to, in the comments below, let me know, what is that desire that you're having, and are you able to focus on that and keep changing your awareness from problems to the solution, to what you want, to that future event. Even though it's imagined, it hasn't yet happened, make yourself feel as though it has. I'm really curious to know what that looks like for you and what you're working on right now. Do this every day, guys. It's really helpful. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them below this video, or any future videos that you want to learn more about. Give me ideas. I would love that. And I hope to see you next time. There's a lot of information underneath the video on how you can get in contact with me. Thank you so much.